This son of a notorious mafia boss was just a teenager when he fired his first gun. He later became the commander of his father's ruthless gang, and he made sure all his enemies died by his hands. In Ireland, another mafia boss's son leads a gang so brutal that the police said,
"They've been involved in very serious criminality, and they are a murderous gang."
Today, we have compiled 17 thrilling stories of mafia bosses' kids who are still in the game, and the first on this list is Anthony Salvatore Caso. Imagine growing up knowing your dad was one of the most feared gangsters in the world. That's the reality for Anthony Salvatore Caso, son of Anthony Gaspipe Caso, the ruthless underboss of the Lucchese crime family. His father wasn't just a high-ranking mobster, he was a man accused of dozens of murders and a mastermind behind violent hits. With a role model like that, it's no surprise that Anthony Salvatore Caso stayed close to the life of crime. While not as infamous as his father, Anthony Salvatore Caso is rumored to be keeping the family name alive in the underworld. He's believed to be involved in racketeering, extortion, and illegal business deals, using the same fear tactics his father was known for. The Caso name still carries weight in organized crime, and he makes sure people remember it. His father, nicknamed Gaspipe, was infamous for his alliances with corrupt law enforcement, and Anthony Salvatore is believed to have inherited the same cunning. While not as publicly visible as other mafia heirs, his name has been linked to extortion rings and hidden financial operations in New Jersey. Despite living a life of violence and treachery, Anthony says nothing beats being a mafia boss.
It's better than being a Hollywood star. No matter where you go with your family, they don't know what to do for you, the people. Like go to restaurants, you don't wait online. They'll get you a table right away. You'll get the best of foods, the best of wines.
But Anthony isn't the only heir who has chosen to walk the same dark path as his father. Across the Atlantic, another family's criminal empire is still very much alive. Christian and Loretta Capriyotti. Some kids inherit businesses, some inherit houses, but for Christian and Loretta Capriyotti, they inherited a mafia legacy. These two are the children of Lello and Mimo Capriyotti, and their family name is one of the most feared in Italy. Their uncle, Antonio Capriyotti, was the original leader of the powerful Capriyotti clan, a criminal organization known for drug trafficking, violence, and illegal dealings. Now you might think that with such a dangerous history, Christian and Loretta would try to live a normal life, but nope, they're still deep in the crime world. In January 2025, the two were arrested with a loaded gun and a stash of drugs. That's not exactly the kind of thing you carry around if you're living an honest life. This shows that they're still actively involved in the family's criminal activities, keeping the mafia name alive. Growing up in the mafia, there's a lot of pressure to follow in the footsteps of those before you. For Christian and Loretta, crime isn't just something their family did, it's something they're still very much a part of today. Even with arrests and law enforcement watching them closely, the Capriyotti name isn't fading anytime soon. The Capriyotti family has long controlled sections of Bari, Italy, with a firm grip on drug trafficking and loan sharking. Christian and Loretta are believed to have strengthened alliances with South American cartels, securing a steady cocaine supply into Europe. Their recent arrest came after months of surveillance, as authorities suspected them of using encrypted apps to coordinate shipments. Despite their legal troubles, their arrest has not diminished the family's influence, and many believe they will resume operations once released or replaced by other relatives. While some mafia heirs continue the traditions of street crime, others have taken a different approach, one that involves suits, contracts, and billions of dollars. Michael Franzese. Michael Franzese isn't just another mafia kid. He was raised by one of the most powerful underbosses in New York. His father, John Sonny Franzese, was a high-ranking member of the Colombo crime family, and Michael quickly followed in his footsteps. Unlike other mobsters who focused on violence, Michael mastered the business side of crime, running racketeering, extortion, and loan sharking operations that brought in millions. He even pulled off one of the biggest mafia scams in history, a gasoline tax fraud scheme that funneled billions into the mob's pockets. His success didn't go unnoticed. In 1986, Fortune magazine ranked Michael Franzese number 18 on its list of the 50 most wealthy and powerful mafia bosses. He was making more money than almost anyone in organized crime. Beyond financial crimes, Michael was also deeply involved in the infiltration of Hollywood and the music industry, using mafia money to back films and concerts. Unlike many of his peers, he successfully negotiated a way out of the life without facing immediate retaliation. His past associations, however, still make him a person of interest for law enforcement, and some believe he retains indirect influence over business operations linked to former associates. But like most mobsters, his time at the top didn't last forever. He was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to prison. When he got out, he shocked everyone by walking away from the mafia. Even today, some believe Franzese never truly left the life. He just learned how to operate from the shadows. While Michael mastered business, another Colombo family heir took a different route, one that kept him deeply entrenched in the criminal underworld. Francesco Frankie Russo. Frankie is the grandson of a powerful Colombo crime family boss, meaning crime was always a part of his life. But unlike the old-school mobsters who thrived on extortion and racketeering, Frankie found his way through nightlife and entertainment. He built a reputation in the club scene, hosting extravagant parties and rubbing shoulders with celebrities. But behind the glitz, legal troubles followed him. In August 2020, he was arrested for tricking lottery winners out of $80 million. But that wasn't the first time he was in trouble. He had also been involved in fake business deals, pretending to sell houses while secretly moving money for the mafia. Some people say he also works with hackers who steal people's identities online. Even though the police are after him, Frankie still lives a fancy life, going to expensive parties and traveling. Instead of sticking to old-school mafia crimes, he now focuses on scams and online fraud, making it harder for the police to catch him. He has been arrested multiple times on charges ranging from fraud and financial crimes to illegal dealings tied to the underworld. Authorities believe he used his businesses as fronts for laundering money, keeping the Colombo family's influence alive in a more modern way. Despite multiple investigations, Frankie continues to maintain his high-profile lifestyle, often posting about his ventures on social media. Some claim he's just an entrepreneur trying to escape his family's past, but others believe he's still deeply connected, working behind the scenes to protect the family legacy. But while Frankie found his place in the club scene, another heir was quietly expanding his father's empire on a global scale: Daniel Kinahan. If you've ever heard of the Kinahan cartel, you know it's one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the world. And at the center of it all, Daniel Kinahan, the son of Christy Kinahan, the notorious Irish drug kingpin. Unlike some mafia heirs who struggle to keep their family's legacy alive, Daniel took his father's empire and expanded it on a global scale. He isn't just involved, he's allegedly running the whole show. Daniel Kinahan is accused of managing the Kinahan crime family's multi-billion-dollar drug trafficking operation, which stretches from Europe to South America. Authorities say he controls everything from logistics to money laundering, and even used his connections in the boxing world as a front for his illicit empire. But law enforcement isn't blind to his influence. In 2022, the U.S. government placed a $5 million bounty on his head, hoping to bring him to justice. That's not something you see every day. It's the kind of bounty usually reserved for international terrorists. The U.S. government is offering $5 million to anyone who helps catch him. Speaking about this development, officials said,
We have always said that we're resolute and relentless in the pursuit of those individuals. They are Irish nationals. They've created, the Kinahan organised crime gang have created misery throughout the world. They've been involved in very serious criminality, and they are a murderous gang.
But Daniel is smart. He doesn't just work with criminals. He also helps manage famous boxers, which makes it easier for him to hide his illegal activities. People say he is one of the biggest drug smugglers in the world, working with cartels in South America. He uses secret codes and private apps to talk to his people so the police can't listen in. Even though many countries are trying to stop him, he always finds a way to escape, moving between different countries like Dubai and Spain. Despite the global manhunt, Daniel Kinahan remains a ghost, operating from the shadows while his cartel continues to flood the streets with drugs and violence. While Kinahan has managed to evade capture, another mafia heir spent years on the run before finally being brought to justice: Marco De Lauro. In the world of Italian organized crime, few names strike fear like De Lauro, and Marco De Lauro, the fourth son of ex-Camorra boss Paolo De Lauro, became one of Italy's most wanted men by the time he was in his 20s. Growing up in the Camorra meant that violence and crime were everyday life, but Marco wasn't just another foot soldier, he was being groomed to lead. When a brutal gang war broke out in Naples, he disappeared, managing his criminal empire while evading capture for 14 years. Authorities say he ordered multiple murders and expanded drug trafficking operations across Europe. He was one of the most wanted criminals in Italy. The Italian police hunted him for over a decade, but he always stayed one step ahead until 2019, when they finally tracked him down in a Naples apartment. Marco was known for being extremely careful. He almost never used phones, rarely stayed in one place for long, and trusted very few people. Police believe he was in charge of drug trafficking and many violent attacks while he was on the run. Some say Marco had already trained new leaders before his arrest, making sure his criminal empire would continue even without him. His time in hiding made him a legend in the mafia world. His arrest marked the end of a long chase, but not the end of the De Lauro family's power. Even behind bars, Marco's influence still looms over the underworld, proving that in the mafia, leadership doesn't always stop with an arrest, and he's not alone in carrying on a criminal dynasty. The Colombo crime family has another heir who's been making headlines: Michael Persico, the son of the infamous Carmine Persico. Michael Persico. Some mafia heirs crave attention, but Michael Persico, son of notorious Colombo crime boss Carmine Persico, prefers to operate from the shadows. Unlike his father, who ruled with fear and violence, Michael built his reputation as a behind-the-scenes power broker in organized crime. Law enforcement believes Michael has been involved in the family's business for years, handling loan sharking, extortion, and illegal financial schemes. But that's not the only bad thing he has done. He controls businesses like construction and garbage collection, using them to make illegal money for the mafia. He is also suspected of bribing government workers so they give his businesses special deals. Unlike other mafia leaders who use violence, Michael prefers to use money and power to get what he wants. Even though he has been arrested before, he still secretly helps run his family's mafia group, making big decisions from the shadows. Despite multiple investigations, he managed to avoid serious convictions until 2011, when he was indicted for supplying firearms used in the 1993 murder of Joseph Scopo. Instead of going to trial, Michael took a plea deal, admitting to a racketeering conspiracy. But even that didn't stop him. Reports suggest that he continues to wield influence within the Colombo family, maintaining their power in New York's criminal underworld. While Michael Persico plays the long game, another infamous mafia heir, Rolando Martinez, is taking a much more direct approach. As the grandson of Kitoni El Gran Martinez, he's making sure his family's violent legacy lives on. Rolando Martinez. The name Martinez still carries weight in the criminal underworld, and Rolando Martinez is making sure it stays that way. As the grandson of Kitoni El Gran Martinez, the late leader of the Martinez Familia Sangueros, Rolando didn't just inherit a name, he inherited an empire. While his grandfather built the family's power through violence and fear, Rolando has taken a different approach. He prefers to operate from behind the scenes, making strategic alliances with corrupt politicians and business leaders. Some reports suggest he has invested in legal businesses, such as shipping companies and real estate, as a way to launder money while keeping his illegal operations hidden. Despite presenting himself as a businessman, authorities believe he still controls drug trafficking routes and weapons smuggling networks. While other mafia heirs try to keep a low profile, Rolando has fully embraced the leadership role within his grandfather's organization. He reportedly controls drug distribution networks, oversees high-stakes money laundering schemes, and manages the family's criminal operations. What makes Rolando different is his ruthlessness and strategic mind. Unlike the old-school mafia bosses who relied on intimidation, he uses a mix of modern technology, encrypted communication, and financial manipulation to evade law enforcement. Even with authorities watching him closely, Rolando continues to expand his influence, showing that the Martinez family's grip on organized crime is far from over. He has managed to avoid major legal trouble. He never communicates criminal orders directly and instead relies on trusted intermediaries to carry out operations. This careful approach has made him one of the most difficult mafia figures to take down. Many believe that as long as he keeps adapting to modern crime, he will remain untouchable for years to come. But Rolando isn't the only one keeping his family's legacy alive. In Italy, Eugenio Palmi, the nephew of a powerful mafia boss, is proving that violence is still very much a part of the game. Eugenio Palmi. Some mafia heirs try to avoid attention, but Eugenio Palmi made headlines for all the wrong reasons in September 2024, when he was involved in a nightclub shooting in Molfetta, Italy. Eugenio is the nephew of the leader of the Paresi Palmi clan, one of Italy's most feared crime syndicates. While he doesn't hold an official leadership title, he is deeply involved in the family's criminal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and illegal gambling. His recent violent outburst in Molfetta was a stark reminder that, despite police crackdowns, the younger generation is still just as dangerous as their predecessors. Witnesses claim the shooting was linked to a dispute over territory and power, proving that Eugenio is willing to go to extreme lengths to protect the family's interests. Even with increased law enforcement pressure, Eugenio remains a key figure in the Paresi Palmi clan, ensuring that the family's criminal empire stays intact. While Eugenio Palmi fights to prove himself through violence, another heir has taken a more calculated approach, one that allows him to operate from the shadows. Peter Gotti. When John Gotti, the infamous boss of the Gambino crime family, was sent to prison, someone had to step up. That person was his brother, Peter Gotti, a man who never wanted to lead but was forced into the role. Unlike his brother, who thrived in the spotlight, Peter was more reserved and cautious, but that didn't mean he was any less dangerous. Law enforcement believes he continued running the Gambino family's racketeering, extortion, and illegal gambling operations after John's downfall. His time as boss didn't last long. In 2002, he was convicted on multiple charges, including racketeering and money laundering, and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. The conviction weakened the Gambino family's grip on power, but it didn't erase their influence. Even from prison, Peter Gotti remained a respected figure within the Gambino organization. His leadership may not have been as explosive as his brothers, but it proved one thing: the Gotti name still holds weight in the underworld, and while Peter's chapter may be closing, another name continues to rise in the shadows: Joseph Joe Amato. Some mafia heirs inherit power, others have to earn it. Joseph Joe Amato, son of a reputed Colombo crime family member, did both, building a reputation as an enforcer and moneymaker for one of the most feared crime families in America. Amato has been deeply involved in extortion, loan sharking, and intimidation, following in the violent footsteps of his predecessors. Law enforcement believes he collects debts, settles disputes, and ensures the family's control over Staten Island's criminal operations. But in October 2019, his luck ran out. He was indicted on multiple charges, including extortion and fraud, after a long FBI investigation. To avoid a lengthy trial, he took a plea deal, but that didn't mean he was done. Even after his conviction, authorities suspect that Joe Amato is still active, working behind the scenes to keep the Colombo family's presence alive. Joe Amato may have faced legal troubles, but that hasn't stopped other mafia heirs from finding new ways to keep their family's influence alive, even if it means moving beyond traditional crime. Shawn Persico. While some mafia heirs continue the legacy of violence and intimidation, others have adapted to the modern world. Shawn Persico, son of Theodore Persico and nephew of Carmine Persico, has taken the Colombo crime family in a different direction: white-collar crime. Unlike traditional mobsters who deal in loan sharking and extortion, Shawn is suspected of being heavily involved in fraud, stock scams, and high-level financial crimes. Authorities believe he has manipulated financial markets, laundered millions, and used legal loopholes to keep the family's criminal empire thriving. His name first surfaced in major investigations when law enforcement began cracking down on mob-backed financial frauds in the early 2000s. Instead of running numbers on the streets, Shawn ran sophisticated scams, exploiting Wall Street's weaknesses to fill the Colombo family's pockets. While he's been implicated in various schemes, prosecutors have struggled to pin serious charges on him. His ability to navigate corporate crime without drawing too much heat has kept him out of prison, making him one of the most elusive figures in organized crime today. But Shawn Persico isn't the only next-generation mobster keeping his family's name alive. Over in the Colombo family's Brooklyn faction, another heir has stepped into a leadership role: William "Billy" Russo. In the world of organized crime, power is never given, it's taken. And William "Billy" Russo, the youngest son of the late Colombo crime boss Andrew Russo, has been working his way up the ranks to become one of the family's key leaders. Unlike some of his flashier predecessors, Billy Russo keeps a low profile, operating behind the scenes to maintain the Colombo family's stronghold in Brooklyn. Sources say he has taken control of illegal gambling, construction, rackets, and money laundering operations, ensuring that the family's cash flow remains steady. But his increased influence in the underworld only means law enforcement will continue to keep a close eye on him, believing he plays a crucial role in organizing meetings, enforcing discipline, and handling high-level business negotiations.
The FBI, NYPD, and other agencies zeroed in on reputed members and associates of the Colombo crime family. More than a dozen arrests made here, including the man prosecutors say is the Colombo crime boss.
While he has faced several legal issues, he has managed to avoid the long prison sentences that took down previous generations. Many in the underworld see Billy Russo as the future of the Colombo crime family, a calculated, business-minded figure who understands both the old ways and modern criminal enterprises. His rise to power signals that the Colombo family, despite past setbacks, is still very much alive. Billy Russo may prefer to stay behind the scenes, but not all mafia heirs take the same low-profile approach. Some, like Tomaso Paresi, find themselves in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Tomaso "Tommy" Paresi. In the criminal underworld, some mafia heirs rise to power, others fall just as fast. Tomaso "Tommy" Paresi, son of Savino Paresi, was born into a powerful Italian crime family, but his reckless actions led to his downfall. The Paresi Palermiti clan has long controlled organized crime in southern Italy, specializing in drug trafficking, extortion, and corruption. Tommy was expected to carry on his father's empire, but his violent tendencies and poor decision-making quickly made him a liability. His downfall began with extortion schemes targeting local businesses. While his father ruled with strategy and influence, Tommy relied on intimidation and brute force. This attracted law enforcement attention, and by the time he was in his 30s, he had been arrested multiple times. In one of the biggest blows to the Paresi family, Tommy was sentenced to 8 years in prison for mafia association and was given a lifelong ban from holding public office. While he still has connections to the criminal world, his power has significantly weakened, and many in the mafia see him as a failure rather than a leader. While Tommy's empire crumbled, another mafia Mafia heir, Lawrence "Larry" Persico, has managed to hold on to his influence despite facing his own legal battles. Salvuccio Giuseppe Salvatore Riina. When your father is Toto Riina, one of the most feared Sicilian mafia bosses in history, living a normal life isn't an option. Salvuccio Giuseppe Salvatore Riina has spent his entire life under the weight of his father's brutal legacy. Known as the boss of bosses, Toto Riina ruled the Cosa Nostra with unmatched cruelty, ordering hundreds of murders, including judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement officials. Salvuccio grew up watching his father terrorize Sicily, and though the elder Riina died in prison, his influence never truly faded. Instead of distancing himself, Salvuccio has embraced the mafia lifestyle, becoming a controversial public figure in Italy. While he hasn't been directly linked to violent crimes, his social media presence and public statements often glorify his father's reign, angering victims' families and anti-mafia activists. Many believe that despite his public denials, Salvuccio is still connected to the Sicilian underworld, helping to maintain his father's criminal empire in a more discreet way. Whether he is truly involved or simply a mafia prince without a throne, one thing is certain: the Riina name still commands fear. But while Salvuccio plays with his father's legacy, another young crime boss, Emanuele Sibillo, has rewritten the rules of mafia leadership even after his own death. Emanuele Sibillo. Most mafia leaders spend decades building their criminal empires. Emanuele Sibillo did it by the time he was 19. In Naples, he was known as the baby boss, a ruthless and ambitious leader of a violent new mafia faction. While traditional mafia groups followed strict hierarchies, Sibillo led a younger, more reckless generation of criminals who thrived on social media, drug trafficking, and violent turf wars. His gang, known as the Sibillo clan, became infamous for executing rivals in broad daylight and recruiting teenagers into organized crime, but his meteoric rise ended as quickly as it began. In 2015, he was gunned down in a gang war, leaving behind a bloody legacy. However, his death didn't end his power. If anything, it made him a legend. Even after his assassination, Sibillo's criminal network remains active, and his image is still glorified among young gangsters in Naples. His followers continue to operate in his name, proving that sometimes a mafia boss can be more powerful dead than alive. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, just click on any of the cards showing on your screen to watch more content like this.